Good morning. Welcome back to Bookeemonsters. My name is PK. It is Tuesday, March the 4th. It is Mardi Gras today, if you can tell by our coffee du jour, which might not mean a lot to some. It might be a huge thing to others. We will honor it. Hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to be looking at the new releases in the realm of crime fiction and thrillers, so the darker side. Yesterday was cozy mysteries, as usual on Mondays. Tuesdays, crime fiction and thrillers. Good morning, Kim. How you doing? Good afternoon, Helen. How are you? How's your day going? We received a couple inches of snow overnight. We've been in the 50s. It'll be in the 50s tomorrow, but have to deal with rain turned to snow driving to work. Blech. All right, let's look at fun stuff. So this first one I actually have now. This is a sequel to Killers of a Certain Age, which I really enjoyed. This is by Deanna Rayburn of the Veronica Speedwell fame. This is a contemporary, and it's senior citizen female spies, well, assassins. All right, this is Kills Well with Others, second in series. After more than a year of laying low, Billy, Helen, Mary Alice, and Natalie are called back into action. They have enjoyed their time off, but the lack of excitement is starting to chafe. A professional killer can only take so many watercolor classes and yoga sessions without itching to strangle someone, literally. When they receive a summons from the head of the elite assassin organization known as the Museum, they are ready to tackle the greatest challenge of their careers. Someone on the inside has compiled a list of important kills committed by Museum agents connected to a single shadowy figure, an Eastern European gangster with an iron fist, some serious criminal ambition, and a tendency to kill first and ask questions later. This new nemesis is murdering agents who got in the way of their power-hungry plans, and the aging quartet of killers is next. Together, the foursome embark on a wild ride across the globe on the double mission of rooting out the museum's mole and hunting down the gangster who seems to know their next move before they make it. Their enemy is unlike any they've faced before, and it will take all their killer experience to get out of this mission alive. Really do enjoy that first book. I don't know why I resisted it for so long, because I did resist it for a long time. Read it last year, loved it. Very glad there's a second one. Lauren Willig has a new one out, and this one is on sort of the darker side. I couldn't quite put it into the cozy category. Oh, good. This is a standalone by Lauren Willig, The Girl from Greenwich Street, based on the true story of a famous trial. At the start of a new century, a shocking murder transfixes Manhattan, forcing bitter rivals Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr to work together to save a man from the gallows. Just before Christmas 1799, Elma Sands slips out of her Quaker cousin's boarding house and doesn't come home. Has she eloped, run away? No one knows until her body appears in the Manhattan well. Her family insists they know who killed her. Handbills circulate around the city accusing a carpenter named Levi Weeks of seducing and murdering Elma. But privately, quietly, Levi's wealthy brother calls in a special favor. Aaron Burr's legal practice can't finance both his expensive tastes and his ambition to win the 1800 New York elections. To defend Levi Weeks is a double win, a hefty fee plus a chance to grab headlines. Alexander Hamilton has his own political aspirations. He isn't going to let Burr monopolize the public's attention. If Burr is defending Levi Weeks, then Hamilton will too. As the trial and the election draw near, Burr and Hamilton race against time to save a man's life and destroy each other. And we all know history, how that turned out. Nikki French has a new one. Got some names today. The Last Days of Kira Mulan. Nancy North is ready to put her life back together. After suffering a psychotic break, the ruined friendships stalled her fledgling restaurant and forced to forced her to move out of her comfortable flat. She'll do anything to get back to normal. She and her partner Felix, who has been a saint through her recent troubles, move into a new flat for a fresh start. Nancy is taking her pills, seeing her therapist, and avoiding unnecessary stress. She's doing absolutely everything right, but something is still very, very wrong. On the first day in the new flat, she hears them again, the mysterious voices that triggered her first episode. It could just be the unfamiliar sounds of water in the pipes or the screaming baby across the hall, but deep down she knows something more sinister is going on. Her fears are confirmed when the young woman in the downstairs flat, Kira, is found dead. Felix, her neighbors, and even the police insist it's a tragic suicide, but the pieces aren't adding up for Nancy. Can she trust her own instincts, or is it all in her head? I suspect her boyfriend, Felix. Meanwhile, Detective Inspector Maud O'Connor has misgivings about her colleague's investigation of Kira's death. The boys' club at the top seem intent on closing the case as quickly as possible, especially since the only person who thinks it could be anything other than suicide is known to be unreliable. But Maud knows what it's like to be dismissed as an over-emotional woman and isn't so quick to discount Nancy's claims. As tensions reach an explosive breaking point, the line between fact and delusion becomes dangerously blurred. But Maud will stop at nothing to ensure that the truth comes to light. There's a new Finley Donovan out today. Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave by L. Casimano. Finley Donovan and her nanny partner in crime, Vero, have not always gotten along with Finley's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Haggerty, the community busybody and president of the Neighborhood Watch. But when a dead body is discovered in her backyard, Mrs. Haggerty needs their help. At first a suspect, Mrs. Haggerty is cleared by the police, but her house remains an active crime scene. She has nowhere to go except Finley's house right across the street. Finley and Vero have no interest in getting involved in another murder case or sacrificing either of their bedrooms. After all, they've dealt with enough murders over the last 4 months to last a lifetime, and they both would much rather share their beds with someone else. When the focus of the investigation widens to include Finley's ex-husband, Stephen, though, Finley and Vero are left with little choice but to get closer to Mrs. Haggerty and uncover her secrets before the police start digging up theirs. But who will solve the mystery first? End of row 1. Sandra Brown has a new one. I did check. This is a new one. I believe this is a standalone. Blood Moon. This is a sexy thriller, it says. Detective John Bowie is one misstep away from being fired from the Eau Claire Police Department in coastal Louisiana. Recently divorced and slightly heavy-handed with his liquor, Bowie does all that he can to cope with the actions taken or not taken during the investigation of Chrissy Mellon, a teenage girl who disappeared more than 3 years prior. But now, Crisis Point, a long-running true crime television series, is soon to air an episode documenting the unsolved Mellon case. Bowie has been instructed by his unscrupulous boss to keep to his grievances and criticisms over the mishandling of the investigation to himself. Beth Collins, a senior producer on Crisis Point, knows what classifies as a great story and when there's something more to be told. After working on the show for 7 years, Collins is convinced that Chrissy Mellon's disappearance was not an isolated incident. A string of disappearances of teenage girls in nearby areas have only one thing in common. They took place on the night of a blood moon. In a last-ditch effort to find out the truth, Beth enlists Detective Bowie to help her figure out what happened to Chrissy and find the true culprit, for he acts on the next blood moon in 4 days' time. Kieran Rose has a new one. Dead Man's List, third in the San Diego case files. Hang on, need to wet my whistle. On a long-anticipated second date with police psychologist Dr. Sam Reeves, right as things are getting steamy, Kit stumbles across the mutilated body of a local San Diego politician. Buzzkiller. The man was loved by many of his constituents, but hated and reviled by many more. That the suspect list is long surprises no one, but exactly who ends up on it stuns Kit and her team. As the SDPD reveal the victim's sinister dealings, Kit and Sam are forced to navigate the closely guarded world of the city's richest and most powerful citizens to find answers. But time is rapidly running out, with their sources of information dropping like flies as the killer methodically eliminates loose ends and anyone else who stands in the way. Marshall Karp has a new one. Don't tell me how to die. I have one thing to do before I die, and time is running out. I had it all. A fantastic husband, 2 great kids, an exciting career, and then at the age of 43, I found out I would be dead before my next birthday. My mother also died young. I was 17, and she warned me that women would flock to my sudden single father like stray cats to an overturned milk truck. They did. And one absolutely evil one practically destroyed his life, mine, and my sister's. I'm not letting that happen to my family. I have 3 months, and I plan to spend every waking minute searching for the perfect woman to take my place as Alex's wife and mother to Kevin and Kate. You're probably thinking, she'll never do it. Did I mention that in high school I was voted most likely to kill someone to get what she wants? Holy moly. It's so twisted, I'm intrigued. Ken Bruin has a new one. That's a name. Galway's Edge, 18th in the Jack Taylor novels. I remember when they first were coming out and people went bonkers. A secretive vigilante group called Edge cleanses Galway of its worst criminals, but when someone starts picking off Edge members, private detective Jack Taylor steps in to investigate. Edge, a shadow organization made up of the most powerful figures in Galway society, exists to rid the city of criminals and abusers who have evaded the law. Long wary of organization, the Vatican is not pleased when rumors start swirling that one of the Catholic Church's own priests have joined its ranks. And who better to ask to intercede than the whiskey-swigging ex-cop who always seems to have one foot in the pub and another among Ireland's clergy. Lately, Jack has been spending his days sitting at the bedside of a man who he put into a coma and taking care of a little dog named Trip, bequeathed to him by a dead nun. Then an envoy to the archdiocese shows up at his door asking Jack to go speak to a priest named Kevin Whalen and dissuade him from any involvement with Edge. Jack accepts the mission, but the next day Father Whalen is found dead, hanging from a rope in his own backyard. Would Edge really kill one of their own? And if not, who else would be bold enough to take on the most powerful organization in the city? As more Edge members are murdered, the Vatican grows alarmed that someone even worse will take their place. It's up to Jack Taylor to nail the culprit before Edge is dissolved completely and Galway is thrown into chaos. End of row 2. Follow the Butterfly by Marta Kakkonen, and translator is David Haxton. Translated from what? We don't know. 2 brilliant women, a serial killer and her therapist, play a brilliant game of cat and mouse. It all started with a telephone call. It was the first time I heard Ida's voice, just a faint whisper, as though she were calling from beyond the grave. Renowned therapist Clarissa Vertanen is not afraid to look at the darkest side of humanity. Haunted by the death of a young patient, she will do whatever it takes to save the most vulnerable. But when Ida, angry, damaged, and seemingly suicidal, walks into her office, Clarissa may have met her match. For Ida has secrets. Murderous secrets, which mark her like a bloodstain. Secrets which drive her to kill, and kill again. Somehow, Clarissa must find the key to unlock her past, so she makes a bargain with Ida, 6 months to try and stop her taking her own life. But what if she has entered a game more deadly and more evil than she could ever imagine? The Good Samaritan by Tony Helene. A college professor is offered a chance at redemption if he can figure out the right thing to do in this blah, blah, blah. Sociology professor Matthew Larkin is barely holding on. After the death of his toddler son, his wife divorced him, his teenage daughter abandoned him, and he lost a job he loved. Landing a rare tenure track position at a small college in southern Minnesota, he's trying to cope with the disaster his life has become. While driving down an empty highway in the middle of nowhere one gloomy Sunday evening, Matthew gets caught in a hailstorm. Pulling off the road to find shelter, he spies a disturbing sight. Caught in the car's headlights is a child curled up beneath a plastic tarp. The boy is alive but unconscious, soaked to the bone and possibly hypothermic. Knowing an ambulance would take too long to reach them, Matthew impulsively puts the boy in his car, intending to get medical help. On the way, the boy awakens and becomes agitated, begging Matthew not to take him to a hospital or to call the police. Matthew sympathizes with the panicked boy, who looks to be the same age his son would have been. Overcome by longing, grief, and a need to make sense of everything that's happened to him, Matthew makes a dangerous choice, risking everything for a chance to face his past, move on from the pain, and forgive both his family and himself. The Last Visitor by Martin Griffin. The island was abandoned for 50 years, so how did the body get there? 300 miles from the mainland, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, lies Navigacio, whatever, a tiny island that was hastily abandoned 50 years ago and has been uninhabited ever since, until now. Tess MacFarlane is a documentary filmmaker tasked with capturing the wild beauty of the island. Accompanied by a small team of researchers, her job is to film everything she sees, but Tess sees too much, a body. It's clearly a recent murder. It shouldn't be there, and the victim is wearing the same expedition uniform as her colleagues. Someone has been here already, and everyone on the team is a suspect. More than one of them could be a murderer. With 5 days until they are returned to the mainland, Tess must be careful, or hers might be the next body found on the shore. The name of that island is going to bug me. I'm going to have to look it up later. A Murder in Zion by Nicole Magi. Grief-stricken over her mother's death and bruised by her failure on the most recent case, Emmeline Hallowell returns to her Utah hometown to heal, regroup, and reconnect with her estranged sister. A special agent with the National Park Service, Emmy is determined to turn in her badge and take over her mother's bakery for a much quieter life, until the body of a childhood friend turns up in the Narrows of Zion National Park. Emmy is called in to investigate the death, and the case is too personal for her to turn down. I would think they would not, because of conflict of interest. Anyway, once the death is ruled a murder, the seemingly simple investigation turns treacherous as clues leading to a dangerous religious cult grow too glaring to ignore. The pressure intensifies when bodies start to pile up. Emmy has to track down the killer before they take more lives, all while juggling a rocky relationship with her sister as they sort through their late mother's estate. The beauty of Zion National Park is breathtaking, but it may hide sordid secrets in its depths. End of that row. We're going to run out of time. Looks like we're going to have a show on Saturday to make up, because there were a lot of yesterday ones too. Good morning, Emily. How you doing? Took 2 showers this morning. My regular shower, and then my hands were full, so I couldn't carry an umbrella and got caught in a deluge. Oh, soaked and probably cold. Oof, I don't blame you. Kim says, may or may not be here tonight. Game is either at 5 or 7. Both times are on the schedule. Oh, but one of them is supposedly a junior varsity game. Gotcha. Either way, you're probably going to have fun. Burn to Shine by Jonathan Mayberry. A covert group is infiltrating the world's most secure bioweapons research sites. All across the country, people are acting as human disease bombs by infecting themselves and walking into public places. Ew. And heavily armed groups of illegal private soldiers are massing for some unknown strike. Joe Ledger and the members of Rogue Team International, still reeling from the devastation and heartbreaking losses of their last mission, are forced into relentless action to try and save the country, if not the entire world. This is 4th in a series. Old enemies are rising and joining forces to hit Joe and his team with one devastating blow after another. What is the endgame for all of this madness and terror? Outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outgunned, Joe Ledger has to find a way back from the fires of grief in order to make a stand between these enemies and millions of potential innocent lives. But Joe has allies too. His team, the vicious fighters of Arclight, and friends who may or may not be entirely human. What? A war of darkness and light is coming. Who will stand? Who will fall? And how will anyone ever survive? We have time for one more. Broken Fields by Marcy R. Rennan, fourth in the Cash Black Bear mysteries. Minnesota, 1970s. It's spring in the Red River Valley, and Cash Black Bear is doing field work for a local farmer until she finds him dead on the kitchen floor of the property's rented farmhouse. The tenant, a native field laborer, and his wife are nowhere to be found, but Cash discovers their young daughter, Shawnee, cowering under a bed. The girl, a possible witness to the killing, is too terrified to speak. In the wake of the murder, Cash can't deny her intuitive abilities. She is suspicious of the farmer's grieving widow, who offers to take in Shawnee temporarily. While Cash is scouring White Earth Reservation for Shawnee's missing mother, whom Cash wants to find before the girl is put in the foster system, another body turns up. Concerned by the escalating threat, Cash races against the clock to figure out the truth of what happened in the farmhouse. All right, everybody remember where we parked. We've got, 6, 7 left. We will have to get to them probably on Saturday at this point. Alrighty. As Kim mentioned, we do have sprints tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Bring your own book, work on a project, or close your eyes after a day, whatever it is that is self-care for you. I just make the time and space and ambiance for it. Tomorrow we'll be looking at romance new releases. All right, have a very good Mardi Gras if you are celebrating that. Otherwise, be safe, be warm, read good books, and as the banner says, don't be a bookworm, be a bookie monster. Nom, nom, nom. Oh, hope your lab work goes well, Kim. You also have a good day. Have a good day. God bless.